We've got nice weather in the east for the most part. There are exceptions, but it should be generally nice over the next few days. Severe weather going on over parts of the plains tonight, and more to come on Thursday. We will talk about the weekend and the long range, and that's all just ahead. Where else but on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, in full spring mode with topsoil, sand, and mulch and everything else you need to make sure your home is in tip-top shape. Whether you're a professional landscaper or a do-it-yourselfer, head over to Omni. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
And brought to you by Tempest, by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing network on the planet. And you can purchase your WeatherFlow Tempest weather station and any other merchandise. If you use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, you get 10% off. The referral link to our affiliate is on the pin to the top of the chat board and can be found in various locations amongst my websites and so on. And here we are on this Wednesday night. 39 this morning here on my Tempest weather station. And 82, Joe, 82 was the high. But you've already beaten me to 90.
Yes, I've actually, we had Thursday of last week, 91, and Friday of last week, 92. So yes, we're, as per usual, you move to the deep south, and I'm the one who's already leading in the 90-plus degree category.
Your electric bill is higher than mine.
My electric bill is higher than anybody's. I'm hoping to rectify that. With a switch in the supplier next month.
I thought maybe you were going to do that with a wheel and maybe a hamster,
a squirrel
or a squirrel.
Hamsters. Yeah. You know, it's a funny thing you mentioned that. I have not seen this. I live in a very rustic area, and squirrels have really become a part of my life over these past 20 plus years. I have not seen a squirrel, really now. I have not seen a squirrel around here in weeks. I don't know what the heck happened. Whether or not they've moved to a different outlet or whether or not they're out there, but I'm just not seeing them. But I really have, I can't even remember the last time I saw a squirrel.
Yeah, well, that's because they're all here. And my dog lets me know every time he even remotely hears one, let alone sees one. I have high ceilings in my other room, and a window that looks out, and there's this big tree. You know, there are trees out. He jumps on the couch and looks up through that window and goes crazy because he could see the squirrels that are way up. And then by the way, I had another surprise last night after the show. So I went out to walk the dog, and I go out my front door and I look, and it looked as if somebody took a blower and blew all the leaves off the, it's kind of raised. So anyway, it looked like somebody took a blower and just walked and blew all the leaves off the one side. And it was a really long fetch, maybe about 200 feet worth. And I was wondering, what in the name of God? I said, I didn't hear anybody with a blower. Certainly didn't hear my neighbor with a blower. I didn't hear, a bear. And I'm trying to figure out, well, why would the bear decide that he wanted to landscape my property? Turned out it was my neighbor's chickens. 3 of them. Joe, if you looked at what they did, I mean, they literally, it looked like a landscaper came and walked with the leaf blower and just blew all the leaves off to one side.
Wow.
But it was the chickens. because they've been letting them loose during the day. Anyway, they cleaned up a mess that I refused to clean up anyhow, so it all worked out for the best. Welcome to everybody tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Welcome to everybody on the chat board on this Wednesday night. Hope everything is going well. If you're lurking in the background and you like the Joe and Joe Weather Show, well, hit the like button. If you're not lurking in the background and you like the Joe and Joe Weather Show, hit the like button and subscribe to the Joe and Joe to my YouTube channel so that you can see our show Monday through Thursdays at 7:35 and Sundays at 11 a.m. We're usually off Fridays and Saturdays, but every once in a while when there's a big storm around, Joe and I will pop on and forego our 2 days of battery recharging. Are you about to pop something?
I'm trying to pop some. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
One time, George Carlin, I think on his Class Clown Grammy-winning album, Glass Clown, from like the early '70s, he had an entire audience. It must have been like 1,000 people in the audience, and he said, "Everybody do it." And if eventually they did it, and a lot of them started to laugh. He said, "Now do it without, giving into the flirt, thing of laughing," and like he had 1,000 people going. It was very funny. Anyway.
Now, what do you think Sister Charles Edwards would have done if the entire class had done that?
Oh God, please! Oh, it would have been curtains.
Claytons, I say. Claytons.
Ah, they're adorable.
All right, we got a busy night of severe weather going on, so why don't we just sashay over to Tornado HQ, shall we?
Yeah, surely.
And we've got a whole slew of severe thunderstorm warnings and a few tornado warnings in the mix. And you can see them here on their map. I'm going to switch over to the other radar so you could take a look at them from this perspective. And yeah, I mean, let me see if I love to try to count them. 2, 7, 9. Then there's a cluster of 6 of them in Oklahoma, so that's 15. And then you got a stray one to the southwest of Chicago. It looks like there's just one tornado warning up at the moment. And no, there's a little teeny red box inside the yellow box, so there might be 2. My eyes may even see that there could possibly even be 3, but let's take a look. Why don't we go back to Tornado HQ and look at what's on the list here. And we have Oklahoma, Canadian, Kingfisher, Logan, Oklahoma counties in Oklahoma, all under a severe thunderstorm warning. So is Pawnee County in Nebraska. In Kansas, we have Dickinson, Geary, Pottawatomie County, and Riley County. I hope I got that right. Riley, I think I got right. Pottawatomie County in Kansas. We have a severe thunderstorm warning in Fremont, Iowa. Warnings also, this is part of the same warning, just sort of rearranged a little bit. Dickinson, Geary, Morris, Riley, and Waubonsee County, Wabaunssee in Kansas. Hope I got that right. These are all warnings that are fairly recent, okay? It's 7:42 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:42 p.m. Central Time. In case you're watching this, you might be watching this on a replay. Lincoln, Oakland, Oklahoma, and Payne counties, those are all severe thunderstorm warnings. Marshall County in Kansas. The tornado warnings still have about 17 minutes to go. There's 2 of them. One was issued at 6:18 p.m. Central Time, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Newcastle, moving east at 25. And this is in Oklahoma. Cleveland, McLean, and Oklahoma counties are part of this. The other one is in Mills County, Iowa. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Hastings, or about 14 miles west of Red Oak, moving northeast at 25 miles per hour. So pretty busy slew of these here. There's one that's going to expire. There's a tornado warning in Mills County that's going to expire. One is expiring in 2 minutes, and then they got this other one that goes for another 14 minutes after that. So Busy night in the parts of, I guess that's part of the plains, I suppose. Is that considered part of the plains?
Uh,
Along the Nebraska-Iowa border. Is that
yeah, I think I would part of the Great Plains. Yeah, yeah.
these
But
are
did you say
these are northwest of Kansas City and Topeka right now.
that you mentioned that one of the places under a severe thunderstorm warning was Fremont
Uh,
County?
I believe so. Let me just take a look. Did I say? Yeah, yes, Fremont County in Iowa. Why?
Okay. Now, which on television there was a character or a person who had a dog named Fremont. Who was that?
Oh,
Well, that
wasn't that on Dennis the Menace?
my goodness, man! I thought I had you stumped. You're right. Who owned Fremont?
Oh God, was it Mr. Wilson?
It was Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson had a dog, a Cairn Terrier, by the way,
Right.
named Fremont. So there you
Now,
go.
was it the Joseph Kearns Mr. Wilson or the Gail
Yes.
Gordon Mr. Wilson?
No, it was the Joseph Kearns, Mr. Wilson,
Right.
and
And he
then
was
Gail.
replaced by Gail Gordon because Joseph Kearns, I think, had a heart attack and died.
Yeah, he died. He died young. He was only about 55 years old when he died, and but Joseph Kearns did a lot of his work on radio, and really Dennis the Menace was his big break in television. Although he did make an appearance on I Love Lucy.
Yes, played a doctor.
Not just a doctor. He was also in the episode with the mix up with the Broadway play tickets.
Yes, right. Over the teacups. No,
Right.
not oh
No,
no,
no, no.
no. The most happy fella.
Right.
Over the
Standing on the corner, watching all the girls
right,
go by. Yeah.
right. No, over the teacups was the play for Ethel's birthday.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good Lord! The things you remember and the things you don't.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it just popped into my head when you said Fremont. I said, and who would name a dog Fremont? But only Mr. Wilson on Dennis the Menace, right?
Right. Busy on the radar around the Great Lakes. We've got some showers and downpours moving across Michigan, even up in the the northern part of the lower peninsula of Michigan. We've got some snow in northwestern Montana. There's a nice little swirl there on the radar, so we've got a fairly decent shortwave slash upper low that's doing its thing up there, and that's creating some issues. We've got scattered precip up in the Pacific Northwest. Some places rain, some places snow, but much of the Northeast is, except for some stuff aloft way up in northern New York and on the other side of Maine, the radars are quiet up and down the eastern seaboard, including Florida, and going all the way back west across the most of the Ohio and Tennessee Valley and the Deep South and into East Texas. It was an absolutely spectacular day here in Northeast Georgia. And if you look at the satellite loop, you can see the blossoming of these big thunderstorms in Kansas and in Oklahoma and on up into southeastern Nebraska, western Iowa. A lot of lightning strikes there going on, Mr. Rayo.
Well, you can see on the satellite picture, I woke up this morning anticipating that we were going to have at least mainly sunny skies, totally and completely overcast here in Putnam County, and even down as far as New York, completely cloudy. I did look at the satellite picture, and as you can see, there's a lot of clouds over the Northeast, and we were right on the lower flap, if you will, the lower edge of the clouds, which took the better part of the morning into the early afternoon to gradually lift from southwest to northeast across the area. We were stuck at noontime, Joe. We had temperatures here under broken to overcast conditions. Here at my house, we had temperatures of around 48 degrees, well, more like 46 actually. And you say to yourself, what is this? What happened? It took until early afternoon for the clouds to finally break. When the sun finally came out, boom, temperature went flying upward, peaking at around 57 in mid and late afternoon. Tomorrow, we should see temperatures most everywhere here in the Hudson Valley in the 60s, and then a big warm up with temperatures pushing perhaps toward 80 when we get toward Friday afternoon.
By the way, Miss Fowlerite says, show them the dry line, show them the dry line. So take a look at this. Is the 21Z surface map, and there's a low in southeastern Nebraska. It's analyzed as a 98 low. On the east side of that, where we're getting the severe weather, you got your dew points in the upper 50s and low 60s, and temperatures from the 70s in southern Iowa to the low and middle 80s across much of eastern Kansas. The dew points, as I said, sitting right around 60 or so. Then jump on the other side of the stationary boundary. You can see the dew points drop to about 50. Okay, that's pretty reasonable. But then just go a little bit further to the west, and you're looking at dew points here, Joe, 33, 19. Up in Nebraska, 16, 21, 79. A dew point of 9 with a temperature of 56. I don't know what station that is in northwestern Nebraska, but very sharp drop in the dew points over a relatively short distance. It's a fairly impressive dry line that is moving in behind all this.
That would do it, though. I mean, you talk about what do we have? A dew point depression of what? 50, 60?
Yeah,
Something weird like that. That'll make for some lightning and thunder.
Yeah. The Storm Prediction Center, since we're on the subject of severe weather, we might as well stay on it. We've got We have a couple of tornado watches that are up, and a small severe thunderstorm watch on the northern top of that tornado watch that runs up into Iowa, and all of this is part of an area of enhanced risk that sits in northeastern Kansas, northwestern Missouri, southwestern Iowa, southeastern Nebraska, and Kansas City and Topeka are right in the heart of that. And further south, we've got in the slight risk, we've got a tornado watch there. This one actually was just issued relatively recently here. Hang on, this is 2023. Actually, no, let me just give this a refresh. It wasn't relatively recently, I don't think. 11 minutes ago. Now there's a new one. Okay, so we have a new one in north central Oklahoma. That was issued 11 minutes ago. The other one was issued back a few hours ago. So busy here are the folks at SPC. Now, we look ahead to tomorrow. We have, at least for the moment anyway, SPC is indicating a slight risk from Texas northeastward into Missouri. The marginal risk covering much of the eastern half of Texas extends all the way up north to southern Wisconsin, and that includes Chicago and Milwaukee. St. Louis is in the slight risk. So is Little Rock, and I think so is probably Dallas-Fort Worth, very close to that slight risk, marginal risk line. And that comes with 2% tornado risk in two separate areas. One in the south from Texas to Arkansas, then a gap, and then another 2% risk from just about the Mississippi River near St. Louis, northward to southern Wisconsin. And then we go to day three. Day three, which is Friday into Saturday. They've got a slight risk in southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana, marginal risk going all the way down to the Mexico border, and also extending eastward into Louisiana and Mississippi. And I don't think they had anything on the long range when I looked. Predictability too low Saturday into Sunday, potential too low Sunday into Monday. Then predictability too low on day 6, day 7, and day 8. So looking at all of everything that's going on, Joe, with this next weather front that's going to come through, it looks all of a sudden now the models have said, no, it's not going to slow down to a crawl, but it's not as blocky as it looks, and everything is going to move along, which to me says that showers and maybe a rumble or two of thunder in there late Saturday night and maybe for the first part of Sunday, or later Saturday night into the first part of Sunday, and then maybe it gets out of the way for later Sunday afternoon or evening? Or do you see this a little differently than I do?
No, I think basically it's just I'm looking at the same thing that you're looking at, and it looks like now. What about Saturday? Did you think that there would be the possibility of maybe a shower before the end of the day on Saturday?
I toyed with the idea about putting it in, uh, and then I looked at this and I said, you know what? It almost looks like a wall with that southerly flow that you sort of and the upper feature is so far to the west. The low actually, Joe, lifts up northward and then goes almost northwestward as it moves up toward Lake Huron. I left it out. I could see though that there might be, something stray develops in that southerly flow that it could happen, but I decided for now to leave it out. And then it's got showers, somewhere between 8 o'clock and 2 a.m. Developing from west to east. But by 8 a.m., the back edge is already at the coast and then moves out to the east from there, and weather conditions improve.
Yeah, and I've got. We were talking yesterday about Monday and how, or maybe even Tuesday, showers hanging on. I went with the possibility for maybe a shower or two lingering into early Monday, followed by a gradual clearing. And I actually have mainly sunny conditions for Tuesday and for Wednesday. So,
Yeah, there's
uh,
actually because of the upper trough, there's some showers pop up Sunday night in Pennsylvania, in northern Pennsylvania, southern New York. They kind of fall apart before we get to sunup. And then they bubble up again during Monday afternoon. A couple of stray showers in the colder flow aloft with the upper feature. This is sort of changed from yesterday, where it looked like the front was just going to absolutely crawl its way through here, and that means that if it's going to come through and move faster, if it gets in faster and it goes out faster, you can cut the rainfall in half. WPC was talking about, inch and a half to 2 inches plus. Now they have just a half an inch on their rainfall forecast for the east. I'll bring that map up. And on the new one, I mean, they have higher amounts in PA and upstate New York, but down near the coast, it's basically a half to maybe 3/4 of an inch if you want to push it.
I don't want to push it.
Okay, don't push it. Big rains,
Uh,
though. Big rains, though, for the lower Mississippi Valley for the next 7 days of as little as an inch and a half to some places 3 or 4 inches in the next 7. Also, inch and a half plus rains in the Carolinas and parts of southeast Virginia. Much of the area, actually, much of the the U.S. east of the Rockies has a substantial amount of precip from tonight through next Wednesday night. The whole eastern half of the United States is just in the blue, so it says everybody gets at least a half an inch out of this, out of these weather systems that are moving along. Pacific Northwest, okay, it always rains in the Pacific Northwest, so that's a little lower than what we saw in the last couple of days. I do want to just mention what's going on also in the northern plains up near the Canadian border, because we do have some significant snow amounts of a foot plus being forecast for northeast North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota. Some 12 and 13 prints there on the digital forecast. So some, winter is just gasping here, but it's still going on. And we also have some patches in parts of Montana where we're seeing 6-inch plus snowfalls in small areas and a few double-digit amounts popping up there. Also in the Cascades, where they don't even put up winter weather advisories unless they're getting at least 2 feet. So I guess that's below criteria. Watches and warnings. At the moment, there's a county Joe, in northeastern Montana that has a blizzard warning up.
wow.
Yes. And we have winter weather advisories in northern Minnesota. We've got some winter storm warnings in a handful of counties in eastern and central Montana. Advisories surrounding that. We've got flood advisories because they're getting new snow and melting snow all at the same time.
Yeah. I'm just checking here for the National Weather Service forecast office in Great Falls. I just want to take a look. Yeah, it's a funny thing. If you go to that site, the National Weather Service forecast office in Great Falls, they have kind of like a gigantic billboard, if you will. Ice and snow, take it slow. And if giving reports about or giving advice on clean off your vehicle before driving, keep it slow, don't use cruise control, leave extra distance between vehicles. You wouldn't think this late in the season you'd be hearing all this, but they have it out in Montana.
Well, I'm just looking at Hawaii, Joe, where we have flood watches up for the Big Island and also for, not for Honolulu, though, okay? But the islands between Oahu and the Big Island are also under flood watches. There are also winter weather advisories up on the Big Island. So what is it? Is it Kilauea?
On the Big Island, well,
Yeah.
they have Kilauea is an active volcano, and two inactive volcanic cones, which is Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea.
Well, the winter weather advisory is through tonight for the Big Island summits. A front moving through will produce a wintry mix of light snow and a chance of freezing rain over the Big Island summits. Winds will be gusting at times to 55 miles per hour. So they're going for 1 to 3 inches. Now we've seen it enough, more than enough times in Hawaii that every once in a while they'll get some big snows up there on the Big Island. So 1 to 3 is kind of minor for them.
Well, minor for them. But you get 2 or 3 inches and a 55 mile per hour wind, and it could be pretty nasty.
Well,
of course, don't forget they have a large astronomical observatory on the summit of Mauna Kea, and this obviously is not a situation where they're going to be doing very much in the way of observation with this type of weather pattern with all of that snow falling. By the way, in the northeastern part of Montana is the town of Pentywood, and that is the area that is in the that one little corner that you mentioned in under a blizzard warning.
right.
And blizzard conditions, additional snow accumulations, 3 to 8 inches, winds gusting as high as 50 miles an hour. Where Sheridan County until 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time tomorrow. Impacts travel could be very difficult. I would say, with a possibility of up to 8 inches of snow and 50 mile per hour winds, yes, I would admit that the travel could be somewhat difficult. Widespread blowing snow, visibility is below 1/4 of a mile, and expect these conditions to cause stress on newborn livestock. So you don't want to be a newborn calf.
Oh,
and
right.
be wandering around in
It
this.
is the calving season.
But you remember they used to issue stockman's warnings for
Right.
kind of this type of winter weather. So this is bad for not just man but for beast as well.
I'm looking, by the way, I was just looking at the upper air pattern going forward, and of course, it goes, it gets blocky, and the troughing in the west is for the first time diminishes and weakens, and you got all these upper lows running around. So it's if you're looking for another string of 90-degree weather, I can tell you right now, it ain't coming with this pattern going forward through next week and beyond. It does look to be a bit on the chilly side as we head into the first days of May.
And the lower Hudson Valley on Friday, there's the potential of temperatures getting to or maybe even slightly above 80. Now, the record high at the Westchester County Airport, we keep saying it's in White Plains. Really, it's more like Harrison, and they get a sea breeze sometimes off of Long Island Sound. Unlike last Friday, where the winds were west-southwest, the winds will be more southerly or even south-southeasterly. So even though inland areas of the Hudson Valley will be at or above 80, and the record at the Westchester Airport is 83, I can assure you it's not going to get anywhere near that at Westchester Airport because they're going to get the onshore flow. Likely they will see temperatures in the low 70s, which is still well above normal. Normal temperature should be in the mid 60s, but it's not going to be a repeat of what we had last Friday when we had those incredibly hot temperatures in the 80s to near 90. So it'll be a warm day by the standards of mid to late April on Friday, but it simply will not be anywhere near what we had back on last Friday.
No, in fact, I just put the Friday high temperature map up, and you could with the wind barbs, and you can see it's all the wind barbs are all east southeast.
Right.
From all across southern New England down along the New Jersey shore. They start to turn more southeast as you get further south. Now, it probably means that this time around, the hottest weather, the hottest temperatures are going to be maybe around the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area down into Virginia, where the digital forecasts are all popped up around 90. I just wonder whether it might be, that might be a little low. But the winds there, as you see, the wind barbs are more southwest as you get further to the south. And Joe's right with the wind direction. We were talking about this yesterday with more of an east-southeast wind. You should have a decent amount of sunshine. We're not talking about low clouds and fog or anything like that hanging around for most of the day, or having to deal with something where you have to get rid of the clouds and break out into some sun. In this instance, it's just going to be the marine influence. It's not a strong wind. It's mostly 10 knots or less, but it'll be enough. And yeah, you're right. This is where it may wind up being, temperatures may wind up being a little bit too high on these digital forecasts by a couple of degrees because of the wind direction. Now, further inland is way inland. You go into southern Pennsylvania, you go into central PA. It's all middle to upper 80s there. Yeah, that'll happen. But if you're up and down the New Jersey coastal counties, if you're on Long Island, if you're in southern Connecticut, the lower Hudson Valley, it's going to be cooler.
Yeah. So far, by the way, at Westchester Airport, so far 3 record highs this month. We had 77 on April the 6th. We had 89 last Thursday, and then 87. It was actually 2 degrees cooler on Friday, when most places, like for me, the hotter of the 2 days was Friday when we got to 92. But that's pretty good that Westchester Airport, in spite of their sea breeze, usually still manages to break 3 records. There is that 4th record that is possibly within reach on Friday, but I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think Westchester Airport, with a southeasterly wind, will probably get no higher than the lower 70s. Inland spots, maybe like Poughkeepsie or Montgomery, that are away from the coast, they may very well get to or above 80 degrees. But again, places closer into the shore will probably remain mostly in the mid and low 70s. It's, again, still not bad when you consider that the normal high should only be around 64, 65.
Well, here's your low tonight in southern Kansas, moving northeastward into Iowa. You can see where the snow is, pretty much splattered across the Northwest and the Northern Rockies. And then it develops again up into Minnesota and eastern North Dakota as the low moves up into northeastern Minnesota there. And, of course, we got more showers and thunderstorms to deal with tomorrow from Indiana down into Texas, where the SPC risk is. And that front has to wait for yet another wave to develop. And there you see it on Saturday in Lake Huron. And this is where, Saturday's wind is going to be more south. It actually might get a little breezy on Saturday with the pushing against the high that's offshore and the front coming eastward. There's a chilly high sliding southward into Montana, spreading cooler air across the plains and the Great Lakes. You see the arm of rain that moves through the Northeast Saturday night into Sunday morning. It's mostly over with I'm going to switch to the radar view here just to see what GFS is doing with the radar. The European was pretty much on the same page. So at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, still some showers in southeast New England and Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire, but everywhere south and west of there is pretty much done. So the front slows down a bit more when it goes into New England as opposed to doing it up and down the East Coast. And then because if you got this upper feature that's going to be sitting Off the coast of eastern New England, you got a low spinning around over there. So as long as it doesn't drop to the south, there's a low, Joe, on the middle part of next week that moves across Georgia with some heavy rain into the Carolinas, and it stays to the south because you got a nice chilly high up near James Bay for the second half of next week. And then eventually, as we get toward the weekend, I mean, does it or doesn't? It does look kind of blocky. So I guess however these lows set up will determine whether we wind up with chances for rain or perhaps not. I will opine, Christinapedia wanting to know, I guess because Long Island's having a big pollen year. And that hot weather last week with temperatures in the middle upper 80s probably, one of the things about the spring on Long Island, Joe, is the fact that it takes an extra month for everything to bloom because of the fact that much of the time you're dealing with a wind off the ocean in some fashion. So you don't get anywhere near as warm as it does in further inland spots. But last week you had 3 days where temperatures got up into the 80s, and one day where it made 2 of those days made mid to upper 80s. I bet you that's just gotten you mentioned, Joe, everything just blossomed as far as the blooms were concerned where you are. I bet you the same thing happened on Long Island, and that's probably why the pollen is so high.
Yeah, no, it was not Ken Musillo. It was somebody on the chat board who said that literally everything just blossomed or bloomed overnight. Maybe not that quickly, but 10 days ago I had nothing. I really had on most of the trees, and I'm surrounded by trees. I was looking at the same stuff, not even any real buds on the trees. Here we are 10 days later. My goodness, everything just came out very, very quickly. And by the way, the Climate Prediction Center, I'm not going to put this up, but I'll simply just say that they have the Atlantic seaboard, or most of the eastern United States, and a slight risk of heavy precipitation from the 27th to the 29th of April. That's late next week into the last weekend of April. But quite frankly, looking at the GFS, for example, and other models, there seems to be the trough and the coastal system that may come out of it looks rather suppressed or rather flat. I actually think, Joe, that the system that the longer range models are suggesting for the beginning of May is a digging trough that apparently is going to sweep in from the Great Lakes into the eastern U.S. That looks more formidable or formidable. What is that? What is the correct pronunciation?
I've always said formidable, but you say formidable.
No. I didn't say formidable. I'm saying that's what people are saying now, but they're saying formidable, and I'm saying to myself, what happened to formidable? I grew up with formidable, and now suddenly it's formidable.
I've always said formidable.
All right. Well, whatever. It looks more of a threat, if you will, more of an adverse situation for rain and storminess here, beginning of May, as opposed to, let's say, the 27th to the 29th, which is what CPC, Climate Prediction Center, is suggesting. But what it all boils down to is that as we get toward the end of April and into the beginning of May, it looks like it is going to be trending toward wetter and also indeed chillier conditions. And in fact, I'm sure a few of the snow lovers out there or winter weather lovers are probably saying to themselves now, gee, why couldn't we have this kind of a setup in January or February? Why all of a sudden is it manifesting now in the end of April, early May?
I put up the teleconnections. Look at the NAO, which is which is going negative even as you and I speak, and is pretty negative right through the rest of this week and next week, and right through the first few days of May. This is actually as negative as the two negative. We were positive on the NAO virtually all of January, all of February. It went negative for a few weeks, half of March, like 10 days, late February, early March. Then went back to the neutral line. Then it sort of went a little bit negative at the end of March. Then it went back positive. But now it's going negative now, and it stays negative right through the first few handful of days of May. So
Right.
it figures, like you said. And then if we look at the P&A, and here's another big change. If you look at the P&A, which was virtually negative for the entire month of February and half of the month of March. I mean, all right, neutral, or neutral to negative. It now is going positive at the same time. So you've got great teleconnections for, better teleconnections for snow in the wintertime. Here we are at the end of April, beginning of May.
Is it possible that,
or even conceivable? No,
even conceivable that we might see?
no,
No, I don't think
no.
so.
All right. So anyway, why don't you have? Do you have Briller Jeopardy?
I don't think so. I think
Scott said I think he was going to just take a break here. So let me see if I've got something. Let's see. Okay, hang on 1 second here. I gotta just find something. Okay. One moment, Joe.
yes.
Let's see. La 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 la. Checking. Rolling. Yeah, he's taking take a couple of days off, so we're good.
All right.
All right.
So
let's call it. Oh, sorry. Let's call it a night.
we'll be back tomorrow.
We will be back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern time, right here
by the way,
on this YouTube channel.
And on the weekend, I had mentioned that there's some sort of an armed services or a tribute to our veteran at the German club. That's on Saturday. So anything that happens on Sunday, you said there may be some switching around.
I'm probably not going to be around on Sunday.
Oh, well.
So possibly maybe late Sunday evening. So maybe there's a chance we could do a show at 8 o'clock or 8:30.
When are we going to do that? When are we going to do that unusual situation show where we do the show at like 4:30 in the morning?
When we get an unusual situation.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's have like a weird. I remember a couple of times Letterman, when he had his show, he actually had the show, a taping of his show at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why he did it, but he did it, and he had a full house. People came at 4 a.m. I'll bet you if we said that we're going to have a show
at 4:30 in the morning, do you want to test? Yeah, do you really want to test that theory?
I'll bet you we get a bunch of people coming. Hey, there's a Joe and Joe at 4:30 a.m. Well, I'll ask the chat board right now. If we scheduled the show at 4:30 in the morning, would you show up? Would you wake up and come online at that hour of the morning? Let's see. Anybody? Renato says, yeah, right. Do not test it.
Yeah.
Chuck Cardilla says, I will be up.
Chuck, you're
See,
always
the whole truth is like me.
Chuck is always up.
Matthew Ho or who says, I'll stay up for it. Craig Carver probably. I tell you, Joe, there are probably enough people out there, enough crazies, that they would probably warm to the idea. But I'm not gonna say anything more.
This host does not warm to the idea.
Christopedia, where's Tom Contino when you need him? Asking weird questions.
You see, for us to do a show at 4:30 in the morning means that I would have to get up at the very least at 3:30 in the morning to set everything up. So, and I'm not doing that.
Okay.
So let's put an end to this.
All right.
Okay.
So I'll say nighty night then.
Well, hold on. Before you say nighty night, we have to
do a sponsor check.
Of course.
Right. Of course.
And the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. The website, omnitruevalue.com. And also brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board, and they have other weather merchandise as well. And as I said earlier, if you shop there and use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, you get an extra 10% off. Nighty night, everybody.
Nighty nights.